I'm Michael Cordova, and welcome to the second episode of Pod Perspectives, looking at performance, optimization, and diet. Just want to say a big thanks to our sponsors, Floating Point Float Centre, for helping to make this possible. My guest this week is Tina Cordova, one of the owners of Floating Point Float Centre, and our sponsors. Tina, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to talking about what floating can offer.
Great, thanks for being on the show. It's great that we can talk about floating today. Before we talk about the wonderful benefits of floating, though, I want to know a little bit more about you. So, have you always had an interest in health and well-being, and what's been your journey to get to this point in terms of opening the centre?
Well, considering I'm your float partner, you probably know a fair bit about me. But for the benefit of our listeners, my background is education-based. I taught English for a few years, safeguarded children and young people whose lives were incredibly complicated. Supporting students and nurturing their interests has always been a part of my life. I guess my interest in health and well-being has always been there in some form. My mother is a complementary therapist, which led me to train in Indian head massage and reflexology. As a young person, I was fascinated by the therapeutic benefits writing can have when one wants to express feelings and emotions which are hard to articulate in speech. So I guess a combination of factors brought me to floating and to the whole concept of opening a centre, and it just seemed like the right path.
I know we had a little bit of a journey, especially with the kind of kids we worked with in schools, and having a space just to let go of all the physical and emotional challenges that we had to face day to day in the centres and in the community. Yeah, I think it definitely helps. And you mentioned about the writing. So what did you mean about the benefits of writing? Because you touched on that, but then what did you do with that?
Well, it's like you said, working with kids who were kicked out of school and incredibly complex situations. I guess writing was a bit of a release. It helped I guess cope with the day-to-day stresses of life, and it was a perfect sort of let out. But I think that combined with floating, really, because our stress levels were so high at the time, that floating and writing kind of went hand in hand. So writing about our experiences in the pod was incredibly insightful. So I guess for that I'm eternally grateful, really.
It's been an interesting journey, and I just want to know, how did you feel after your first float session?
With my first float session, I felt like my whole body relaxed, and the physical benefits, I just felt incredibly free. I think I went away thinking, yeah, that was quite an experience, and that was quite surreal, almost dreamlike. But I think I think the true benefits kicked in when I knew that I had a perfect night's sleep, and I felt so refreshed the next day that I just felt, no, actually, it sort of confirmed to me, no, I need to explore more and have to float more. And that's what led me to my second float and third, and then it just continued from there, really.
So obviously we know that floating has been around obviously for quite a long time now, but for those of people listening that aren't necessarily aware of the history, what are the kind of origins of floating, and how does floating work for somebody who's never been to the centre or never floated before?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's interesting because floating has been around for a long time. I mean, the origins of floating came about from John C. Lilly, and he was actually a neuroscientist who had actually designed his first tank in 1954. I guess his goal was to examine the origins of consciousness by cutting the brain off from all stimuli. And in terms of how floating works, well, flotation works by shutting down the brain responses for dealing with external stimuli, allowing an individual to reach a deeply meditative state. And I guess it helps by having the supersaturated water with Epsom salts and heating the water to skin temperature. So that just means an individual who typically enters the sound and light-proof tank, completely nude by the way, is cut off from all normal sensory input, including the pressures of gravity. just all these factors, make it the ideal environment. And this lack of input allows the brain to slow down. The brain shifts from beta state to alpha state and releases waves with a slower frequency. So this state of deep relaxation is paralleled to deep meditation.
Yeah, and you mentioned the fact that people do technically float in the nude. Is there any particular reason why they do that?
I think they just gain the most out of floating from the fact that there is no distraction, nothing, no sense of that feeling where clothing restricts you. So I think because of that, it's recommended and usually encouraged. And to be fair, you just, many of our clients are perfectly happy with the fact that it's their room and they're on their own and they can have that privacy. So I think it's perfect because you don't want to necessarily feel the water, and you want to be able to feel that anti-gravity sensation.
So we know there are obviously many benefits to floating. As you meet a lot of the clients, obviously day to day, and we've got to know quite a few of them over the last 3 years, how has it impacted, the clients that have come in?
Our clients often tell us, it's helped them release the tension that they hold in their body. It helps ease stress and anxiety, improves concentration. The fantastic thing is not only our clients say this, but research shows that floating measurably reduces blood pressure and heart rate whilst lowering the levels of stress-related chemicals in the body. So floating is also beneficial for pain management, as it helps in reducing chronic pain and reduces post-operative recovery time significantly. And we have had many clients who are, suffering with chronic pain, and this is their way of coping and dealing with the pain that they have to deal with. So, our clients often talk about how floating helps manage their day-to-day pain. They find their sleep has drastically improved, outlook on life has changed, and just generally there's a greater sense of calm has entered their life. It has been incredible impact on certain individuals who wish to make changes to their diet and lifestyle because of floating.
Yeah, I've noticed that there's definitely been a number of people that have made big changes, like moving countries, or starting new jobs, or reducing medication that they're taking for pain or for anxiety. But you can definitely see the difference for people from when they come in to when you see them afterwards.
Yeah, completely.
Which is an amazing thing to see. But I do understand as well that obviously we talked about a bit there about the chronic pain and in terms of stress and anxiety. So there's other aspects, I guess, with floating that can help. So I understand that we also work with British Rowing and the GB Rowers. And how has the floating been helping them over the last few months, or even the last year, really?
Yeah, we're so fortunate because our GB rowers are so grateful. They're so grateful for the space and time we provide, as it has a positive impact on their pre-race visualization for races and post-race recovery time. And honestly, we feel so proud supporting these hardworking athletes who reap the benefits of floating to improve their performance, focus, and recovery. There's an immense pride in that. It is always so fascinating to see how well they do in the lead up to races. You can just see the clarity and mental focus needed for their trials and really crucial races that they have to take part in. It's essential to them, and we like to think we play a part in their personal development as athletes.
So we, like you said, we're looking at performance and optimizing performance in terms of pre-race work. Could that be transferred over to normal people who are working either in everyday lives?
Completely. Yeah. Anybody who's problem solving for any business people out there, it's perfect for problem solving. Floating, I'd say, obviously is for everybody and anybody because it's accessible, but in particular I find If you do have a particular hectic schedule or plan to work on, or a big project that you need to work on, then I think it can help. It can help you come to solutions.
It's good to see the effects of floating on all people, from the elite athletes to the everyday person who wants to come in just to have the experience and just to see their reaction afterwards as well. But I understand as well that at the centre you ran a study in combination with Stress Management Society last year. I guess our listeners probably want to know what that involves and what are the outcomes as well to that study, because I mean that's quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it was a small study. There's obviously a bigger study that was covered with the Laureate Institute of Brain Research and Dr. Justin Feinstein. But I mean, just to bring back the focus on the small study that we took place in, we ran a small study with 9 participants, 5 males and 4 females between the ages of 25 to 60. And the participants floated 4 times across 4 to 6 weeks. This involved a heart math reading pre-float and post-float, and this was to measure their stress levels. After each float, participants also completed a questionnaire. And the results, it was fascinating, because all participants felt that after 4 float sessions, they were more in control of their feelings and found themselves to be calmer, happier, and more positive. They felt the difference in their emotions for days afterwards, some, even to 2 weeks after. One common factor for all participants was that they realised that the time that they need to set for themselves is a priority, and that participants felt that the floating sessions had a greater impact compared to other things that they had previously tried, meditation or just exercise. Most participants felt the environment created allowed them to follow through without interruptions. So, for instance, one particular participant mentioned that if he was meditating at home, it wasn't possible to just be, there was some sort of distraction, whether that's the ground that he was on, or there was always some sort of distraction. And I think because that environment doesn't allow any external distractions, then you get the most out of it. And that was really pleasing to hear. So the results indicated a steady increase in the participants' scores over a 6-week period. I believe mental well-being shifted from poor and below average to good and excellent. Yeah. So exactly. When you think poor and below average to good and excellent, that's pretty amazing, actually. If you'd like to learn more about this study, then please definitely visit our website and click on the tab Flotation Research, and you'll be able to read more about that in full detail. But there is a new study out by Dr. Justin Feinstein, as I mentioned earlier, from the Laureate Institute of Brain Research, that shows very promising results on the benefits of floating.
Yeah. We're just going to come to that, actually. I read the study, and it's very exciting for pretty much everybody within the float industry, because it's such a big study, and it does show that floating can help with anxiety. So I want you just to tell me a little bit more about the study, just to kind of summarise what else it shows apart from obviously helping anxiety. So it'd be great for our listeners to get a good background on that.
Yeah, sure, definitely. I mean, like you said, Dr. Feinstein's research, that's really pushing forward, and it really sets the standard for more research that should be going on. But Dr. Feinstein's publication is so important because it is the first peer-reviewed study of flotation, and looking at clinical population with PTSD, panic disorder, and other manifestations of anxiety. The number that took part was 50 anxious people floated for a single float session. Normally these people would not go near a commercial float centre because their anxiety levels were so high. In its many forms, would make it difficult for them to consider such an experience. But astonishingly, every single participant found significant improvement in how they were feeling after just one float session.
Wow.
Just one. So even more remarkable is the fact that the more severe their anxiety, the more relief they experienced, and they reported this sense of relief. That's quite extraordinary, the severity of it, when you compare that to that degree of success, and to have all of them report significant improvement. it's just a wonderful testament to the potential for the clinical use of floating, and of course for the power it has for everyone to achieve profound brain-changing relaxation, muscle tension, stress, and just decrease dramatically post-float, with an increased feeling refreshed, serene and relaxed. For people suffering like that, that's like pretty life-changing, I would say. It's moving to learn that some of those subjects felt they got their life back, or that they found more improvement than gold standard drug therapy was providing. And this was from a single float session, an hour or so of floating peacefully, but in monitored conditions. You don't have to be suffering from anxiety to get the benefit of a float session. Rather, these results emphasize what a powerful tool the float tank can be in all our lives.
It's just pretty big results there from the study. I understand he's going to be looking at further studies as well with potential patients with eating disorders as well. But back to you, I guess, in terms of how often do you use it? So, and what do you use it for personally, and what positive changes have you noticed? Because obviously you've been floating for a long time, and now probably, I guess, 7 to 8 years. So what kind of changes have you noticed over that time?
I think I've got more patience when dealing with tricky situations, or just I just feel more in control of my emotions, in control of life. And also, actually, one of the biggest changes now that you've really brought it home to me is I feel like time doesn't really have a hold over me anymore. Time is just, it comes and it goes, really, and it doesn't seem to restrain me in any way. So I think for me, it's about taking stock and realising that what I do with my time is my choice, but at the same time, I'm free from all of it. I feel just free to be me, and free to not have to worry about what's going on. How quickly can I get this done? I'm not worried about that anymore. I aim to float once a week, and my reasons vary. Sometimes I want to zone out and just be alone to conserve my energy. Other times I want to explore my thoughts and reflect on my week. I often feel that the pod is my thinking tool, my safe place to retreat to. And of course there are physical benefits. It eases the tension in my shoulders, releases endorphins, hence the post-float glow that we always tend to notice. And another factor is my skin always feels so soft and silky after floating. I mean, what's not to love there, really? So all in all, that is what it actually means, and those are the kind of personal feelings I have towards floating.
It's definitely unique for everybody, I think. It's interesting the kind of people that you meet every day, because you never know two people the same. And they may come in for slightly similar reasons, but obviously their life is slightly different, and it's always interesting to talk to them afterwards, just because they tend to feel a lot more open and communicate more. But you can definitely see the big difference, and I definitely notice the difference after you've floated as well. So,
oh yeah? Yeah. What kind of differences have you noticed?
Well, I've noticed that because of the nature of your job at the moment, and obviously it's a bit more of a physical job, and obviously a lot of your driving, so you just look a lot more relaxed afterwards. You look refreshed, re-energized.
That's good to know. I'm pleased you mentioned that, Michael. Yeah. I'm really pleased that you've actually said that, because actually because you know how much of a drain it can be driving. It can be quite a drain. I mean, I travelled to London obviously for my job, but just to everybody out there, I think the long journeys do play a part in it. It can be tiring.
Your job, there tends to be a lot of lifting and doing physical activity, but then on the other side you've got people who are sat at desks all day, who are sat in their cars or for travelling, like you said, and they are sat down a lot of the time, and that has an impact on kind of muscles and muscle tension in the body. So having a place to be able to let all that tension go, to be able to stretch out, to be able to realign your body to get itself in the correct posture, that's quite important, I think. Well, okay, so with the amount of sessions, because you said you float What once a week?
Aim to, once a week,
once a week. Is there a kind of recommended amount of sessions that people should do? Is there kind of any reasons why someone couldn't use it at all?
Yeah, like you said, the recommendation can vary depending on what people want to achieve, what they want to get out of it. Those with chronic pain, for instance, tend to float once or even twice a week. Got our regular clients who they use that, and they're fortunate to have that, right at their doorstep. I guess for them it's perfect for once or twice a week. And then you've got for injury recovery and those with high levels of stress that, twice a month seems to work well. And then again, there's that factor of, if you're struggling to find time, then once a month, to be fair, to most of our clients, it doesn't feel too demanding. Because I think sometimes people tend to get wrapped up about worrying about sort of the time factor and travel. Some of the things that fortunately, because I'm floating more often, those kind of things don't have as much a hold on me. But I think for people who genuinely, that is a factor, that is a concern. People have busy lives, we know that. For them, it sits comfortably that once a month is what they need. So I guess based on that is pretty much the sort of recommendation. Generally, the only reasons, I guess, why anyone wouldn't use our pods would be if they have low blood pressure, or if they're in their first trimester of pregnancy, those with heart conditions or ear infections, or those who suffer with epilepsy.
Okay, so that's kind of interesting. I guess with the first trimester of pregnancy aspect, that's something that's pretty much standard across all wellbeing kind of treatments, so massage treatments basically.
Yeah, that is generally how it works. Really, it's not really recommended with most therapies. Those first few months are quite critical, so you can understand why that's the case.
I guess it's probably best if that was the case. Then after the first trimester, is even then to check with their health provider, just to make sure. If that's still possible,
it's always best to verify with your GP whether floating is possible and recommended.
So what advice would you give then to someone who is a bit nervous about floating for the first time? What would you say to them? What would you do?
There's an element of us, because we've been running this business for almost coming up to 3 years now. We sort of come to this understanding, that I would say fearing the unknown is not uncommon, but knowing that you are in control of your environment, I think that generally kind of washes away some of those nervous feelings. So I like to just reassure people that, look, you are in control. It's safe and it's a comforting experience. And that is what I say to clients who do feel that way. I say it's safe, it's comforting, you're at the heart of this. And at the end of the day, it is just you. It's you, you're in your own room, you have your private shower, and the pod can be left open. And there is an interior light. To be fair, that's what people sometimes just need, that little extra reassurance that it's about what you are comfortable with. And of course, we're there obviously to talk through the experience beforehand. We go through the induction, we go through the sort of questions that people have. And generally I think people they need that and they like that. They like having that reassurance. So I think the main thing is that people can ease into their float at their own pace, that you're just there to say, it's your space, it's private. Let go of any of those feelings and remember you're in control. I have to say, we've had a variety of different clients and some have felt a bit nervous, but you know what? Generally, once you say you are in control, people generally do respond very well. And they understand that and accept that. Okay, I feel a lot better just from having that conversation with you.
Is there any kind of tips or things you give them while you before people can have music? I know they have music at the beginning and end, and they have options, I guess, in terms of they want music throughout. Is there any other tips or things you normally say to them when you're in the room, go and say through an induction with them? Yeah,
I think sometimes I talk about how they should. Focusing on their breathing, that's always a good one, because then rather than thinking all sorts of random thoughts, they have a focus and that's their breath, and they can just breathe in, breathe out. Or they can even use the whole concept of visualization. So I often like to say, especially if they've got the sound of the waves, that just visualize you're near a beach, you're on holiday, And when I say that, it's interesting because when you say the word holiday to people do tend to gravitate to the idea that they're at a nice sunny beach somewhere and they can just let go. And also it's nice to say, let your thoughts just be like clouds, let them pass by, and you're not in control of them. Let them pass by and they're just floating clouds at the end of the day. You know, once you use these sort of things, little suggestions to people generally, they do feel that, yeah, okay, I'll take that tip away, and it helps them. And they've come out and told us that it helps them. Thanks for that tip about that I'm on holiday, or that just focus on your breathing, or my thoughts are like clouds. There you go. My thoughts are like clouds.
Yeah, there are plenty of good tips out there. I think a lot of times it's just people got to get used to the environment.
Yeah. Initially,
because the first float session, I think that's definitely part of it.
I think the first ones are very much it can be not for all, but it can be a trial.
I think most people, because it's a new environment, you're more aware of the fact that you're floating. So I guess eventually you want to get to a point where you're less aware that the fact that you're floating, but by being less aware of the fact you're floating, you actually get more out of it. Less is more, as they say.
Less is more.
Yeah.
Yeah, always love that saying, especially when it comes to writing as well, funny enough.
And that's why you started writing poetry.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so yeah, we're nearly the end of the show, actually.
Oh no, really? I was just getting into that.
I know, we get half an hour, I'm afraid. But finally, what 3 rules or 3 things that you live by or you follow?
I'm not really a rule kind of person, so I think it's a good question. But I kind of feel like I'm a very carefree person who enjoys the simplicities of life. So if I had to note 3 ways, I guess, I would say be happy with who you are. I think practice compassion and kindness. You can never get enough of that, really. Definitely practice compassion and kindness. And I think always be willing to learn and grow. Change is a part of life, and as long as you are open to change, you're open to the opportunities that life could present you. I mean, what better way to conclude that, really? Yep. Be open to the opportunities in life.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Just because the opportunities that we've had through the centre, through the people we've met, through the people that have come through our door, that have kind of found us. Yeah, I think all the opportunities that present themselves, you kind of have to take them, and then if they work out, that's great. If they don't, then that's also great. You'll still learn. You just got to take a positive from it. Exactly. You can't say everything's like as a negative, because the idea is if it didn't work to plan, that's fine. But you also learn to then not do that next time, or do things in a different way. Fantastic, great. So if our listeners want to find out a bit more info about the centre, where can they go?
So if you want to find out more, head to our website at www.floating-point.co.uk, or check out the videos from the Float conference to learn more about floating. And that website is www.floatconference.com.
Thank you, Tina, for being on the show and for sharing your knowledge on floating. If you want to learn more, do give us a call at the centre, or pop onto the website and have a look. But thanks very much for being on the show today.
Thanks for going through this with me. I really enjoyed it.
It's good. We learned a lot. There's plenty more out there in terms of floating wise, but we do have some great guests coming up on our future podcasts. So please follow the show on SoundCloud or iTunes as Pod Perspectives. And we are also on Facebook, where we'll put all the links we've mentioned in the show. So thanks for listening. I'm going to get my float on. Until next time, take care and stay healthy.